I'd like to talk about Sonny Rollins. Playing with Sonny Rollins and getting to know him and being friends with him is one of the greatest privileges of my life. When I was 16 and got my driver's license, uh, my first goal was to drive from Boston to New York City and sit in with Sonny Rollins. Well, actually, that was a bit unrealistic because, I was basically a kid, and Sonny was this, giant of jazz. I mean, who could stand up and play next to him? Anyway, I got this idea that I wanted to go to New York and play with him. So I jumped in the car, drove to New York, and was staying with Billy Elgart, a great jazz drummer. Went to the Village Vanguard and asked Sonny if I could sit in with him. He sort of looked at me. He said, what do you want to play? I said, how about Green Dolphin Street? He said, okay. He said, you can go and play. I said, no, I want to play with you. Because I knew he was into this duet thing where, he wanted to actually do simultaneous improvisation. It wasn't just playing the head and then people have individual solos, but he wanted to have people play at the same time with him. So we played the head, and we just started improvising together, simultaneously. And it worked really well. And then he said, what do you want to play next? So we just kept playing. And then he said, next week I'm going to be playing somewhere else. Why don't you come and sit in with me? Which I did. And anyway, we got to be friends. And that changed my life. Because it's not just playing an instrument. You play with Sonny Rollins, it's a whole other thing. I mean, it's really quite beyond words, but there's nothing like it. And that really inspired me. From that point on, it was all about becoming a jazz musician, and I was focused on making a life as a jazz musician. I kept in touch with Sonny, and one day he said he would like a microphone to attach to the bell of his tenor, so that because he liked to walk around the stage, he didn't want to stay in one place and play into a microphone. He wanted a way to, have a microphone on the bell of his tenor so that he could walk around. So I was using the Brulin Care calibration microphones for my recording, and I did a little project, and I had the Widener's machine, a special clip that could hold the Brulin Care mic onto the bell of Sonny's tenor saxophone. And I remember he came to New Haven, and we put it on his horn, and it worked fine, and he played a lot of concerts with it. And that was the microphone that could really take the volume that he played at. I mean, that guy really put out some sound, and of course that microphone had no trouble handling it. So it actually worked out pretty well. And we met up at different times, and there's one time when he was in Boston, and I asked him if he would come out to my parents' house in Newton. My father was a professor of psychology at Harvard, and Sonny came out, and I had Billy Elgart there with his drum set, and I thought, maybe we'd play something. So Sonny came out, and what he was really interested in was talking to my dad. Sonny was very intellectual, and he was interested in my dad's work as a psychologist. And they got in this very long conversation, and we did play a song with Billy, but Sonny was playing very, very softly, just almost in a whisper, just so softly. Well, Sonny got in this long talk with my dad, and when I would see him in the future, might be every couple of years or whatever, but every time I would see him, he'd ask me, how's your dad? And how's his work coming? And, what's he doing? And he just remembered everything from that time. It's amazing. He just was just right in his head. I uh, I I read later on that he became a Buddhist, and I realized that Sonny made a journey, a remarkable journey, from being a young jazz musician to being a jazz giant, and then eventually um, becoming a Buddhist, which was very valuable to him because when he was in his 80s, he was advised to stop playing, right? To put his tenor away. And I think discovering Buddhism helped him because he knew that everything has a beginning and an end. And he embraced it when he had it, and it was time to let it go. He let it go. It was very graceful, very elegant. And I never went to his home up in Germantown, New York. I wanted to do that, but never did. And but when I read about him, I realized that he made this incredible journey, and a part of that journey was this incredible commitment to playing the best he could. I mean, not just playing, but playing the best he could every time. And just that kind of musicianship, that kind of playing is so rare. It's just, it's amazing to hear it. And it's, of course, incredible to stand next to him and play with him. But it's that energy, that complete commitment to playing the best you can, to being the best you can, to being the best person you can. I know he was devoted to his wife, and spent many years with her, and then she sadly died of cancer, and it was really hard on him. But there was a seriousness to him, kind of a depth. It was in his music, and it was just the way he lived, and that was a great inspiration for me to to be the very best that I can be always. And I think what Sonny stands for is, of course, his music, and you can listen to his recordings and his musical journey from the early days on up to the various phases of his musical career. But the most remarkable is the person and the dedication to music and to being the best person that he could be.